Welcome, everyone, to another episode of World Gone Weird. Hope you're all doing well as one can be these days, considering everything that's going on.
Yeah, welcome back to the chaos, everyone. Buckle up, buttercups, because this week's news cycle is brought to you by the letter F for famine, fertility clinic bombings, and frankly, I'm freaking out.
Can't say I'm surprised. Seems like every week is brought to you by the letter F these days. Fear, frustration, financial ruin. The list goes on.
Greetings. This week we're facing a cascade of events that demand careful consideration. It is important to meticulously evaluate the evidence without bias or error.
Okay, well, let's dive in. The big one seems to be this new Israeli offensive in Gaza. The UN is calling the situation beyond inhumane, and the death toll is just staggering.
Yeah, beyond inhumane is putting it mildly. Sounds like a real resort destination, right? Complete with complimentary shelling and starvation. What's the TripAdvisor rating on that, do we think?
That's dark, Sarah. But, it's hard to see a way out of this. Trump tried to broker a ceasefire, failed, and now we're back to square one, except worse. And of course, he's got his own ideas about freedom zones, whatever that means.
The rapid classification of the event in Gaza raises concerns about the potential for bias influencing the investigation. It's crucial to accurately determine the cause and circumstances of the event.
Right, and Trump's idea of a freedom zone involved, if I'm reading this right, the US basically taking over Gaza? I mean, is that even feasible? Or legal? Or, remotely ethical?
Ethical? Honey, ethics left the building a long time ago. Feasible? Sure, if you're into large-scale population displacement and turning conflict zones into beachfront properties. Think Miami Vice meets Mad Max.
It's classic Trump, right? Big pronouncements, zero details, and a complete disregard for the consequences. He probably sees it as a real estate deal. Build a hotel, slap his name on it, problem solved.
There's a lack of a scientifically driven approach to the solution. The explosive mechanisms need to be determined before moving forward.
But what about the people? The millions of Palestinians trapped in the middle of all this. The article mentions a new humanitarian foundation backed by the US and Israel, but even that is facing skepticism from other aid organizations.
Skepticism? I'm shocked. I mean, who could possibly distrust a humanitarian organization backed by the very people dropping the bombs? It's like having the arsonist start a fire safety campaign.
It's a common theme, though. The humanitarian arm of the people causing the crisis. That's where the problem lies. It's control over the narrative, control over the aid, control over everything.
There's also a concern over the motivation and priorities of the situation.
Exactly. And speaking of motivations, Trump is apparently planning to talk to Putin on Monday about a Ukraine ceasefire, among other things. Trade, naturally, is also on the agenda.
Oh goody, Trump and Putin plotting the future of the world over a friendly phone call. I'm sure that'll go swimmingly. I'm picturing them swapping skincare tips and geopolitical strategies.
I'm more concerned about what kind of deal he's going to try and cut. He's already complained about Ukraine pissing away the aid we've given them. What's he going to give away to get Putin to play nice?
The need for an impartial, objective, and scientifically driven investigation, relying on evidence and analysis rather than preconceived notions, is crucial to accurately determine the cause and circumstances of the situation in the Ukraine.
Well, Rubio apparently told Lavrov that the death and destruction must stop. So at least someone is saying the right things. But, words are cheap.
Rubio telling Lavrov the death and destruction must stop is like me telling my dog to stop eating my shoes. It's a nice sentiment, but ultimately, I'm still going to have to buy new shoes.
And then there's the fact that Trump is also apparently going after Walmart for raising prices due to his tariffs. Eat the tariffs, he says, as if that's a solution.
Economic investment and diversification need to be analyzed for its long-term implications.
It's economic illiteracy at its finest. Tariffs are taxes on consumers, plain and simple. And now he's trying to bully companies into absorbing those costs? It's just absurd.
Trump telling Walmart to eat the tariffs is peak performance art. I can see the commercials now. Walmart, proudly serving you affordable goods, now with the side of indigestible trade policy.
But it's more than just absurd. It's dangerous. It's economic instability. It's political uncertainty. And it's all driven by one man's ego.
There's a need to assess the long-term societal effects of such large-scale economic policies.
Okay, shifting gears slightly, but staying in the utterly depressing category, we have these destructive storms and tornadoes across the Midwest. At least 26 people are dead.
Ah, yes, the good old American heartland, now brought to you in convenient, tornado-ravaged form. Perfect for your next disaster tourism getaway.
18 deaths in Kentucky alone. And they're saying the death toll could rise. You know, you start to wonder if we're just not equipped to deal with these kinds of events anymore. Are our infrastructure, our emergency services, are they just failing?
The potential for a detailed scientific assessment of the blast radius and energy dissipation to validate claims regarding damage and lack of contamination to potentially sensitive areas would be beneficial.
Well, Noam, the Homeland Security Secretary, offered federal resources, so that's something, I guess, but it always feels like too little, too late.
Federal resources. Sounds impressive, doesn't it? Like a giant vending machine filled with bandages and bottled water. I'm sure that'll solve everything.
It's always the same story. Storm hits. People die. Politicians offer thoughts and prayers, and then nothing really changes. The next storm comes, and the cycle repeats. It's Groundhog Day, except everyone's miserable.
A scientific understanding of the event and its potential implications would be beneficial.
And then to top it all off, there's this bombing near a fertility clinic in Palm Springs. The FBI is calling it an act of terrorism.
Fertility clinics are now potential targets for acts of terrorism. You can't make this stuff up. I guess the stork is public enemy number one now?
That's disturbing. I mean, what kind of person targets a fertility clinic? What's the motive there?
There's a need for a thorough analysis of the blast's physical characteristics and potential motives, including forensic data and eyewitness accounts, is needed to assess the validity and scientific basis of this classification.
Well, the clinic is saying that their lab and all the eggs and embryos are safe, which is at least a small silver lining. But still, the whole thing is just chilling.
A chilling silver lining is the title of my next depressing novel. Seriously, though, what is the world coming to when even the possibility of new life becomes a target for violence?
It's the age of outrage, the age of extremism. Everything is a target, everything is politicized, and everyone is at each other's throats. It's exhausting.
An effective investigation needs to avoid speculation and ensure all available scientific evidence is collected, preserved, and evaluated systematically to avoid bias or errors.
So, given this cornucopia of awful, what do we even talk about? I mean, where do we even begin to find a thread of hope, a glimmer of something positive?
Hope? Oh, you sweet summer child. There's no hope here, only varying degrees of despair. But hey, at least we have each other, right? To wallow in the abyss together.
See, that's my issue. It is that we're all doomed take. It's not productive. There are always solutions. It takes effort. It takes critical thinking. And it takes a willingness to challenge the status quo.
Agreed. It requires a dispassionate assessment of the situation before forming opinions.
Okay, so critical thinking it is. Let's try to apply that to this whole personalized education thing. We keep talking about how technology is going to revolutionize education, but what are the potential downsides? What are the unintended consequences of tailoring learning experiences to such an extreme degree?
Oh, personalized education. Sounds like a great way to create perfectly optimized little worker drones. Forget well-rounded citizens, we'll have highly specialized cogs in the machine.
That's my fear. You hyper-specialize, you narrow the focus, and you end up with people who are brilliant in one area but completely ignorant in everything else. What happens to critical thinking? What happens to creativity? What happens to just plain curiosity?
That's a valid point, especially when we consider what happens to the workforce. If specific skill sets are prioritized, certain industries might face a skills gap due to this tailored learning. It's a gamble on what skills are useful to the world right now.
Yes, and think about the potential for socioeconomic disparities. If these AI-driven education platforms are expensive, or if they're only available in certain areas, we're just going to exacerbate existing inequalities. The rich get richer, the poor get more specialized in skills that may or may not be in demand.
It's like the Hunger Games, but instead of fighting for survival, you're fighting for access to the best algorithm. May the odds be ever in your favor, unless you were born into the wrong tax bracket.
And what about the ethical implications? Who decides what skills are valuable? What if the AI is programmed to reinforce existing biases? Are we just going to create a generation of kids who are even more divided and polarized?
Indeed, the human rights and environmental ethics questions are significant. These motivations often go unaddressed and create situations like in the Middle East or the Ukraine.
Right, it's easy to see how this could fuel conflict, especially in a globalized market. If some countries have access to vastly superior personalized education systems, they're going to have a competitive advantage, which could lead to resentment and instability.
World War III, The Algorithm Wars. Coming soon to a theater near you. Sponsored by Google and Pearson.
But it's not just international conflict. You're talking about social unrest within countries as well. If people feel like they're being left behind, if they feel like the system is rigged against them, you're going to see more division, more anger, and potentially more violence.
The shift in priorities for certain skills over others will naturally create a social divide and a negative disparity in socioeconomics.
Yes, but is there a positive side to all this? Can't we use AI to help people learn in ways that are more effective and engaging? Can't we use it to bridge the skills gap and create more opportunities for everyone?
Sure, in theory. In practice, I'm betting it'll be more like Black Mirror than Sesame Street.
If we can ensure equity and access, and if we can focus on developing critical thinking skills alongside specialized knowledge, then maybe, just maybe, there's a chance this could be a force for good. But it's a big if.
It requires a commitment to responsible development and global cooperation. If AI gets into the wrong hands, it could exacerbate power imbalances and lead to further inequalities. That's why transparency and ethical guidelines are essential.
Exactly. Maybe we need to think about open source AI education platforms. Something that's developed collaboratively and accessible to everyone. Something that's not driven by profit, but by a genuine desire to improve the lives of people around the world.
Open source? That's cute. You think big tech is just going to hand over their precious algorithms to the masses? That's like asking a dragon to share its gold.
It's a long shot, I'll grant you that, but it's worth fighting for. Because if we don't, we're just going to end up with a future where education is just another tool for reinforcing the existing power structures. And that's a future I don't want to see.
Open source provides much greater access to evidence-based practices. It gives a chance for the free and open market to decide on best methods and for the data to be unbiased to show what works and what doesn't.
Agreed. So the takeaway here is personalized education, potentially good, potentially terrifying. Proceed with extreme caution and demand accountability at every step of the way.
And maybe invest in a good therapist, because the future is looking increasingly like it was written by a team of overworked sci-fi writers on a caffeine binge.
And learn a trade. Because no matter how advanced the AI gets, someone's still going to need to fix the plumbing.
Stay vigilant, everyone. There's a lot more to learn and discuss about the future.
All right, well, on that somewhat sobering note, that's all the time we have for this week. Thanks for joining us on World Gone Weird. Stay informed, stay critical, and try to find something good in the world, even if it's just a really good cup of coffee.
And remember, folks, laughter is the best medicine. Unless you have a gaping wound, in which case, seek immediate medical attention. See you next week.
Stay skeptical, friends. Until next time.
Goodbye.